How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the homestead. It's about 6:45, nice bright and early in the morning, and today we're going to be harvesting some of the potato crop. Now, we're not harvesting all of it because we have 4 different varieties, but one of the varieties is Yukon Gold. And Yukon Gold is an early season variety, meaning it gets harvested before all the rest of the potatoes. So today we're going to be taking those out of the ground, bringing them into my guest bedroom to cure, and hopefully bring them into long-term storage. Now, I'm not totally sure how the long-term storage portion is going to go. I'm not totally sure how the curing portion is going to go. So don't take this as advice. Don't take this as a tutorial. This is just my first year doing this, so I'm taking you guys along for the ride. Let's go. So we're out in the potato patch, and in order we have the Yukon Gold, russets, huckleberries, and in the far bed we have the heirloom potatoes. Now those are hardening off. The skins are hardening in the ground. I haven't been watering them. They're not going to be coming out today, but they are coming out soon. Today we're just focusing on the Yukon Gold. And you can see I pulled the first plant. We got a full pound off of that. We planted 5 total pounds in this row. So we'll see how we do. So far, so good. Well, we are halfway through with the Yukon Golds, and we have a full 5-gallon bucket of potatoes. Now, I left a little room in there so that I could put some hay on top, and then we're going to stash them behind the raised bed to hopefully keep them out of the sun while I finish up this row. Going great so far. We're getting to the last little bit of this row. You can see a couple potatoes poking out right there. We have almost a halfway full bucket. Let's see if we get another full bucket out of this guy. Well, we're all done harvesting the Yukon Golds, and that's what we got. 2 full 5-gallon buckets. Very happy with that. I definitely could have planted at least twice as many potatoes in that row if I wanted to, but I'm not complaining. This was a great harvest. Now, before we move these potatoes upstairs to cure for the next couple weeks, I want to see how good we did. I want to get a final weight on these guys. So I have this scale here. It's already zeroed for a 5-gallon bucket, but just to show you, it is zeroed. Now we're going to use first bucket first, obviously, and I'm not taking the hay out because I don't think the hay is going to matter that much. My guess, somewhere between 20 and 25 pounds. That's my guess. Maybe 30 on the high end. We'll see. We are basically right at 22 pounds. 22 pounds on the first bucket. That's not too bad in my opinion. Let's try the second bucket. Because it's just about the same amount of potatoes, I'm going to say it's roughly 22 pounds once again. Let's see. If I can get it balanced properly. Come on, down. So we are just a hair under 23 pounds. So roughly 45 pounds of potatoes out of 5 pounds of seed potatoes in one row. And like I said, I could have planted 10 pounds of seed potatoes in that one row. So I could have doubled this harvest. Plus, let's face it, I'm not a potato farmer. I'm just a guy who's trying to garden, trying to be self-sufficient. So for not knowing what I'm doing, I think this is all right. So I changed my mind a bit on where we're going to cure the potatoes for the next 2 weeks. As you guys can see from the darkness around me, we are down in the underbelly of my house in the crawl space, and this is where we're going to keep the potatoes to allow them to cure. Now, as you can see, it is obviously very dark. It stays at least 20 degrees cooler than outside or what my shop would be. And actually, during the heat of the day, the shop is hotter than the outside because of the sun beating down on it. And we're going to have a couple 100-degree days coming up, so this is the best spot for the potatoes. I'm on bucket number 2. I have a whole bunch sitting around me back there. They are elevated on cardboard, or in the next case, once I fill up the cardboard, it's going to be on a canvas drop cloth. But it's going to be more than enough airflow getting underneath there. You could actually see one of the vents for the crawl space. So enough airflow is going to be coming through here. It's nice and dark. There's a little bit of moisture like every other crawl space. So hopefully, as long as the critters stay out, I am going to put some traps on the outside of the crawl space, a little ways from the house. That way, if there are any critters, well, that's all I want to call them, scurrying around here, they'll hopefully be outside and get trapped rather than come down here and find a nice snack. So right now, I'm just going through all the potatoes before I set them down here to make sure they're not turning green, they're not soft, that none of the skins are damaged, and if they are damaged, setting them aside so we could eat them as soon as possible. Now, I wanted to mention, just briefly discuss that, putting these potatoes down here, I don't want to call it a leap of faith, because those of you who know me know that I'm not faithful. Doesn't mean what you think it means, I guess, but I don't believe in faith is what I should say. But as a gardener, when you put that seed in the ground, after you've amended the soil, after you've fertilized, after you've taken care of any possible pests, taken care of the weeds, watered properly, and put that seed in the ground, you have to accept that your job is done and you've done everything you can. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that you don't come back and you don't continue to re-amend and you don't continue to look for pests and you don't continue to look for weeds and all that sort of stuff. You have to tend to your garden, but you don't control that seedling. You don't control whether that seed's going to pop up out of the ground and give you a nice healthy plant or whether it's just going to die. You can do everything you want, and you could even go through the process of sorting the seeds and making sure you have the most viable seeds and you're putting them in the most viable section with the most fertile soil and everything. Something could still go wrong. Now down here, I have to accept the fact that I have trapped outside this place. I have not seen any signs of critters down here. I have never seen any critters inside here, and comparing this area to, say, my shop, being as I don't have a space similar to this, a cold, damp, dark place inside my house, the only other option, besides, I guess, just leaving them out in the open, would be my shop. And the shop at this time of year is pretty hot. Now, I understand that people use their shops to store potatoes, or to cure potatoes, I should say, later on in the season. But these being an earlier variety, we're in the middle of summer. We're going to have a couple 100-degree days tomorrow, starting tomorrow. So I can't put them in the shop when the shop is going to be over 100. Whatever the temperature is outside, at the heat of the day, the shop is always hotter because full metal shop, sun's beating down on it, it's just going to work like an oven, basically. So it's going to be way hotter in there. It's definitely not going to be as dark as down here. The chance of pests I've trapped critters inside my shop. I have trapped the thing I'm worried about inside my shop. So at least I haven't done that down here, right? So I'm being as diligent as I possibly can be. But of course, I don't control that critter. I don't control that being and what that being does. So at a certain point, you have to say, Mother Nature, take the wheel. And you just have to accept that you have done everything you can to control the conditions. You've done everything you can to make sure that, the plant's healthier. In this case, the crawl space is clean of things I don't want it to be dirty of or full of. And hopefully, I don't like hope, I don't like faith, but hopefully in 2 weeks we won't have a whole bunch of missing or half-eaten potatoes down here. There we go. All the potatoes laid out, ready to cure. I'm looking forward to see the result. I'm hoping they all cure properly. These over here, it looks like they're touching each other, but all of them are separated. None of them are touching, so we should be good. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Welcome back to the crawl space, everyone. It's been 2 weeks, and it's a beautiful, rainy and cold, overcast Tuesday afternoon. I'm just loving it. So far, the couple potatoes that I've checked have cured perfectly. No soft spots, no issues with them. We'll see how the rest of them go. Now, you may notice that I have a couple boxes next to me with some holes punched in them. And then on the inside, I have some straw. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a lasagna method. I found it on YouTube. We'll see if it works. A lot of people do it, where you do straw potatoes, and you make sure the potatoes are separated so if one goes bad, it's not touching the others and contaminating them. That's the idea. We'll see how well it works, but we have 2 of these large chewy boxes. They are full of straw, and we are just going to take some of these beautiful cured Yukon Golds. I'm so happy with how these turned out. We're going to put them inside these boxes. Hopefully I don't need too many more, or any more for that matter, because like I say, it's stormy out and I don't want to get the boxes wet before I put the potatoes in them. Then after we do that, we're going to set these guys to the side and bring down the huckleberries. I harvested the huckleberry potatoes yesterday. We got another 26 pounds if I remember correctly, bringing the total count up to 73 pounds of potatoes from only half of the harvest so far. Now the raised bed, I didn't harvest it. I haven't been watering it. I'm kind of leaving that as an experiment. Half the bed, the tops have died off. The other half seem to be holding on a little bit. So I'm gonna leave them at least for another couple weeks, see how they do. But for right now, we're gonna get working on these Yukon Golds, then bring the huckleberries down here. Hopefully have enough potatoes to last through the winter. I'm so happy. So we're getting to the last of these guys, and if I pan over here, I apologize for the autofocus in advance. You can see that I have a pretty good stash of potatoes to take inside, as well as a couple that the mouse got to. And of course, as you can see, the mouse got to some pretty good sized ones instead of the small little roasters. But thankfully, those roasters are going to be going into a crock pot here pretty shortly. Hopefully tasting pretty good too. If I pan around here to the box I'm currently filling, you could kind of see the idea I'm going for. So I already have a bottom layer of potatoes down there on top of a layer of straw, and then I have another layer of straw and then these potatoes. So just to give you an example, let's say that potato right there starts to go bad, starts to rot. You know how it goes, organic gardening and storing stuff in cardboard boxes. Things are going to go wrong. But if that guy starts to rot, because he is separated from all the rest of the potatoes, hopefully, in theory at least, that guy is going to be the only one affected because it's isolated completely from any of the other good potatoes. That's the theory. We'll see if it works. There's the hucks all laid out and looking beautiful. I love that purple color, man. A lot of these guys are good size too. Like I'll compare my hand to those. Very happy with that. Now I will say the skin on these guys are a lot more delicate than the Yukon Golds. I was scraping them with my fingernails. I was having the skin peel off when I was taking them out of the dirt. So a lot more delicate. I'm not totally sure how well they're going to store because of that long term, but we only have 27 pounds. So they should store just fine compared to the Yukon Golds.